Why you can see your own writing. Yeah. Pair of glasses.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay. Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. The reason why we called this press conference is because there's been a lot of public comment and discussion over this Brent Trimbell case. Yesterday, the grand jury voted an indictment. It's 25 counts. I'll answer any questions as we go through it if anybody in the audience or anybody in the media has questions, but I'll give you a quick rundown. One thing that I don't want to do, no matter what, is identify who any of the victims are. So I've just got them named in no particular order: victim 1, victim 2, victim 3, and victim 4, you'll notice in there. Before we go through that, I just want to thank the sheriff's office, and I can't say enough about how much work they did on this case. I think I first got contacted back in June 14th. It was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning by his investigators. And from that day forward, I think without exaggeration, I think they've been working probably 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from that time until now to get us where we are today. And I also want to thank throughout as this went forward, we got help. We reached out to the U.S. Attorney, John Sarcone, who was willing to help us with this case, and the FBI. We kind of divided up some of the charges just because it was such an in-depth investigation. The FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office was willing to take some of the charges and move forward with those. So what we have, you have the indictment in front of you, or summary of it, but counts 1 through 4 pertain to victim 1 is what I'm calling her. And that is, there's a forcible touching is the first count. It's a Class A misdemeanor. That dates back to 2023. Count 2, disseminating indecent material to minors in the first degree. That's a Class D felony, and that pertains to the same victim. And I just want to preface this by saying this is an indictment. This defendant hasn't been convicted, just like every defendant. He's presumptively innocent, and he's entitled to due process and a fair trial. We're going to make sure he gets that. So everything we talk about here today are allegations. Count 3 is a sexually motivated felony against that same victim number 1, a Class D felony. Class D felonies face up to 7 years in state prison as a maximum sentence. And count 4 is endangering the welfare of a child dealing with that same victim. Counts 5 through 12 deal with what I'm calling victim 2, just for purposes of today. Those include several serious felonies. I won't go through every one of them, but the most serious charges, there are multiple counts for that victim. And this dates back all the way until March of 2020, when these acts are alleged to have occurred. And there are several counts of rape in the first degree and several counts of rape in the third degree. Rape in the first degree, the allegations are that the defendant forcibly compelled somebody to have sexual intercourse. And there's also several counts that correspond with that of rape in the third degree. That's what people talk about as statutory rape. That's when the victim is under 17 years old. Rape in the first degree, a Class B felony, that carries a maximum sentence of up to 25 years in state prison per each count. One thing, if you're going through the indictment in 2024, the end of 2024, around October or November, the state changed the definition of the laws. So what's referred to in some of these, in the earlier counts in 2020, we refer to them as criminal sexual act because that's what it was called then. In 2024, they changed the name of it and they combined it to be called rape. So you'll see some of the same acts on a different victim that occurred earlier. Doesn't change the level of the charge. It's just a different name, so it makes it sound different. Counts 13 to 23 apply to victim 3, and those run from 2022, the winter of 2022, up until the time the defendant was arrested in June of 2025. Those counts include forcible touching, rape in the first degree, also a Class B felony, rape in the third degree, again, a statutory rape based upon the victim's age, aggravated sexual abuse in the third degree, a Class D felony, sexual abuse in the first degree, a Class D felony, and there's several counts of those same charges because they've happened different times at different locations. Count 24 or count 25 applies to victim 4, as I'm calling her, and that is one Class A misdemeanor. But the top count in the indictment is count 24, and that is predatory sexual assault, which the definition of that's a culmination of two of the previous victims. That's the allegations are that if somebody commits rape in the first degree against more than one person, then there's an extra charge called predatory sexual assault, and that if he was convicted of that, or if anybody's convicted of that, that is an A felony. So it's the same sentence as murder in the second degree. You face a mandatory minimum of life in prison or maximum of life in prison. The difference is the minimum being 10 to life, maximum being 25 to life. But no matter what, the sentence, if he was convicted on that, would have to include life imprisonment. So if you could see how many counts are in the indictment, how far back this went, all the way to 2020, you could imagine the amount of work that went into this by the sheriff's office. And I'm very proud of his team and all the work they did to put this together. Obviously, we couldn't have done it without them. Anything I've needed throughout it as we were moving forward over the weekends, at night, anytime it was, they've been 100% responsive to me. And also, I don't think they're here, but the folks at Safe Against Violence were very helpful in helping us. It's not easy when you have to interview young children that have been through something like this. So they provided a ton of support. I'm very appreciative of the role that they played in this. And I'll answer any questions, but first I want to turn it over to the sheriff to see whatever he can add to it.
Thank you, Sean.
Good morning, and I thank everyone for being here today. I receive briefings, executive briefings every morning in regard to activities that are happening around the county, particularly major cases that our investigators or our deputies may be involved with. And several, as Sean indicated, several weeks ago, I started receiving these briefings in regard to this case. A lot of things go through your mind when you're talking about protecting victims, young female victims, in relation to cases and charges of this nature. I think about those girls. I think about how their lives are going to be changed forever. I think about how their families' lives are going to be changed forever. I think about my own granddaughters, and sometimes it's tough to get through. I was reading a case file yesterday, which generally I don't do, but in preparation for this press conference today, I started going through the case file and I read some of the depositions. And let me tell you something: these horrific acts are just unconscionable. They're shocking to the conscience, actually. And as you can see from what DA Smith just briefed us all on, the fact that these charges result in up to a life sentence just really strikes the seriousness of these charges and the importance of holding people accountable for these types of grotesque behaviors. August 15th, 1985 is when I began my law enforcement career. It's 40 years ago, come the 15th of this month. And I got into this line of work back then for the same reason why I still get up in the morning and come to work now, to help people, to protect victims. It's really the first and foremost thing on my mind every day. And amongst those victims, in my mind, there's special classes. There are defenseless victims, our animals, our pets, farm animals, our senior citizens, and of course, our defenseless children. And that's what we're here talking about today. I've made it my life's work to make sure that those victims' voices are heard and that the people that commit the crimes against these defenseless victims are brought to justice. I've had the privilege to do this job for a long time, as I just said. But I'll tell you what, the honor and privilege of my lifetime is to lead the people here at the sheriff's office. The best of the best sitting right here in this room with us. And when the DA talks about the countless hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours, and the level of dedication and honor that the members of this office put into these cases, I'm blown away. And I'm so privileged to work alongside them. and to have the privilege to lead them. It's really the honor of my lifetime in the interest of protecting our victims here in Delaware County. Our partners in all of this, we have to mention those. Sean mentioned the U.S. Attorney, John Sarcone, and the FBI, who assisted us in making sure a dangerous person wasn't running around in the streets and held where they belong. But not only because they're a dangerous person, but most importantly, when you're looking at charges like this, people tend to run. It's very, very important that people like this didn't have the U.S. Attorney and the Federal Bureau of Investigation in helping us making sure that didn't happen after all this hard work that went into this case. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention their help. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank D.A. Smith in his unapologetic support of law enforcement in this county and the victims that we talk about. He's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He always picks up the phone. He always has our back. And for those of us in law enforcement across Delaware County, we're very grateful for that, Mr. District Attorney. And just this last year, we partnered even further with the District Attorney's office and dedicated to him a full-time sex abuse investigator out of our Criminal Investigations Division. And we're very, very happy with that partnership. And look at the fruits of that labor have already been proven over and over this past year, and really is exemplified in this case that's being delivered to you today. So we're very, very grateful for that partnership, as well as our partnership with Safe Against Violence. These are difficult and very sensitive matters, and their assistance in helping us with these child victims, we're forever grateful for. I would encourage the public that as this case has progressed, there's been, it started with 1, 2, 3, 4 victims. There may be more. I'm going to say what I've said before. If there's anyone with any additional information to this case or any other case of this nature, please do not be afraid to reach out to the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. You can reach us directly. You can reach us indirectly. We have a sheriff's app that's free and downloadable from any smartphone, and you can submit anonymous tips on that app. We take tips on that app every day. We'd be more than welcome to take additional tips in regard to this case or any other cases. So with that being said, I'd like to open the floor to any questions anyone may have. Thank you.
When were you guys first notified of this case?
Off the top of my head, I think it was June 14th. It moved pretty fast. It was about within probably 12 to 15 hours of when the sheriff's office was notified the defendant was in custody, just because of 17th, sorry. Okay. So June 17th, I believe it moved really fast, just because it was a case that a lot of times you like to take your time, complete the full investigation and do it. But when you're worried about a victim, and the sheriff can speak more about this, but if you're worried about somebody who may have access to these victims, you really have to move kind of fast on it. So initially it started out very fast, and then the investigation continued after that.
Is there any sort of timeline going forward in a potential trial or anything else moving forward in regards to this case?
Well, what complicates it a little bit is, or not complicates it, but what changes the time frame a little bit is the defendant now, as everybody probably heard, he got released from state custody and he's transferred into federal custody. So if they wanted to, they could keep him there, do their entire process, and then send him back to us. They're not going to do that. I've talked to the assistant U.S. attorney. He said he's willing to work with us. He's going to any court appearances that we have coming up. They're going to work to release him so we can make all these court appearances. As far as a trial date, typically, it takes about 6 months to get to a trial. We've got to do discovery, you got to do the motion phases, and then if they're, so I can't give you a date on a trial, especially when we've got 2 jurisdictions doing it, the federal government and us.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any sort of word on the kind of support that the victims are currently receiving?
When you say any kind of word, I know that they are being given all the support, definitely anything they request, and even more than that. There's Safe Against Violence. They have a child advocacy center. It's headed by Cassandra. So her and another victim advocate, Chelsea, I know that they've both been with the victims. They're there. They've got their personal cell phone numbers. They're available 24 hours a day. And I believe that the victims are utilizing them. I don't want to specifically say, hey, they're doing X, Y, and Z. Just I don't think it's appropriate for them. But they have definitely any resources have been made available to them.
I know that obviously the potential charges, may induce different punishments, different sentences. What kind of estimate, what would we be looking at in a case of being convicted on all 25?
Well, if this were just if he's convicted on that one, there's really no discretion. It's a life sentence if he was to be convicted on that one. I don't know. Obviously, these are all just allegations now, but if and they don't have to run concurrently, so it's at some point it doesn't do much if you get beyond a life sentence when you start adding beyond a life sentence. But it's you've got a couple of counts that face up to 25 years. Actually, I think there's 5 counts that could face up to 25 years per each count, and then you have the one count that faces a life sentence. So I don't want to speculate. It's really early. The case was just indicted yesterday, so it's way too early to give you a guess or an estimate of where it's going to turn out. But maximum sentences are severe, and in fact, even the minimum sentences are very severe. And this is completely separate. The way we divided it up, what the U.S. Attorney's Office is doing is completely separate from the charges that we have. So anything that they have is, they can go forward in any sentence they have. We may work together to try to come up with some sort of a global disposition. It's not out of the question, but it definitely doesn't have to be that way.
Great.
Thank you.
Are you able to say how you were made aware of this case? Is it an anonymous tip or-
It came in through a complaint, I believe, from Child Protective Services.
Anybody else? Okay. One thing I forgot to say, the sheriff just reminded me of it when he was talking about his team. When I was talking with the U.S. Attorney's Office, they're reviewing the stuff. They relied on a lot of the most of the investigation done by the sheriff's office. And he said, wow, these guys are really second to none. Everything they have, their search warrants, everything they went through. So that, is a compliment extended to your office. I think that the people used to working with the FBI and the DEA and all that stuff said that. So they've done a really tremendous job, and I appreciate that.
Any other questions? We greatly appreciate everyone's interest in being here today, and it's very important that the public is aware and we're transparent through this entire process. Again, we're grateful for your attendance. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.